Hi, I'm Leo Finelli, and you're listening to Generation Change. This month, we're introducing you to Logan Rubenstein. Logan is a first-year political science student at the University of Central Florida, and he first got involved in advocacy after the Parkland shooting in his community. Seeing firsthand how important politics is, Logan was inspired to take action, joining March for Our Lives as a student leader. Logan has worked on multiple local progressive campaigns, from state attorney races to Maxwell Frost's congressional campaign. Logan hopes to inspire more people, especially young people, to get involved in the political process and build youth power. I talked with Logan about his work with March for Our Lives and Team Enough, his campaign volunteer work, and his love of his home state of Florida. Hi, Logan.
Hi.
So, I actually have a lot of questions I want to ask you as part of this interview that I'm really excited about. So, what would you say was your first call to action?
So when I was 13, I experienced the Parkland shooting and I grew up there my entire life. And so, I always was involved in like current events and follow the news. And like I remember like watching Trump's inauguration in my seventh grade civics class, but seeing Parkland shooting about half a mile away from me at the time really opened my eyes to the effects that policy and specifically politics has on communities. When we talk about gun violence and these policies, it really has dire effects on communities. And so after that, I got involved in March for Our Lives. I organized my local community. But yeah, the Parkland shooting definitely opened my eyes to how important politics is and how communities really are at the forefront of these issues.
And then you actually went to Stoneman Douglas High School and you became involved with March for Our Lives. I imagine you got to work with David Hogg, Jacqueline Corin, and other survivors.
Yeah, so I can tell you a story. So I was in eighth grade at the time of the shooting. I was 13. The biggest, I guess, activist part of me would be I had a Twitter account, tweeted some things here and there, but I was never really involved in it. And so that next year I went to Douglas. And so it was that, August of 2018, everything was still kind of happening. It was a crazy experience, just, being thrown into the spotlight like that. But there was this event in Parkland and David Hogg was there. And so I was like little, like 13-year-old Logan. I went up to David and I was like, hey, my name's Logan. I'm a freshman at Douglas. It's like just finished up like my first month of high school. And I said, I'm really passionate and really just inspired by the work you're doing. Like, how can I help? And then so David gave me Lauren Hogg's number. And so he told me that she was planning on starting the Parkland chapter. And then the rest is history. I think I went to that meeting. He recommended me a book. And I of course I bought it and I annotated it and I read it all front to back 3 times over. And then we've just been building our relationship since then. I mean, Jackie also, really bright friend that I have the fortune of calling a friend. I saw David last Thursday. He was in Tallahassee for a rally, and I got coffee with Jackie last time she was in town for winter break. We had a 5-year anniversary rally in Tallahassee for March for Our Lives. And so I got to see David, and it was just, great catching up with him. But just, I'm fortunate to know some really interesting and really brilliant people, and really fortunate to have those connections in my life.
And what were some of the specific gun policy changes you lobbied for with March for Our Lives?
I guess the timeline of my advocacy with March for Our Lives, I first was the president of March for Our Lives Parkland. And so that was like high school club type of stuff, voter registration, voter education, and that kind of stuff, like mental health support in the community, letter writing campaigns to Senators Marco Rubio and Scott. And then I also got involved on the state level as the Florida policy director for March for Our Lives. And so in that capacity, a big thing that we pushed for was the peace plan for a safer Florida. And so that was during the 2019 Florida session. And so I worked really hard and with some really great people. And we had like a 10-page policy platform, everything from gun regulation, making sure that the right people have guns and that it's not in criminals' hands, to uplifting communities, to education, to rights restoration and voter education, that sort of stuff. So that was definitely one of the highlights of my past 5 years, I guess, of political experience. I guess one specific thing is this session we're fighting its permitless carry that's moving in the Florida session this year.
So you mentioned all these specific issues. I remember seeing a poll somewhere that said that at the original March for Our Lives events in 2018, most of the people marching weren't able to name what they specifically wanted without beyond just saying gun control. Do you think that's a good thing or not a good thing? How do you feel about that statistic?
I think it's just the system that we live in, the political climate of American politics. There's a lot going on in terms of day-to-day life, and it's really hard to follow politics from as someone who follows politics and wants to work in politics. I can't name every political issue. It's almost impossible. So I wouldn't say that the fact that people can't name specific policies is a bad thing. It's just that's American politics for you. I mean, I have been working in this field for the last 5 years, so I can definitely name some things, but the average, voter isn't completely in tune with every political issue because there's just too much to follow.
Yeah, and it weighs you down, kind of.
Yeah, for sure.
So you were part of the politics club at your high school. What does the politics club do?
Yeah, so good question. So politics club, oh my gosh, I loved it. So it was my first year, little 14-year-old Logan, freshman, I was wanted to, get involved and really get involved in politics. And it was politics club was basically this club on campus where it would be a Socratic seminar on current events. And so I remember my first meeting, it was a whole room full of people, 30 people all crammed in there. It was a debate on Confederate statues. And then it was just the left side of the room was all Republicans, the right side of the room was all Democrats, kind of self-isolated. And I went to every meeting every year. And then I got involved and I became the president of it. And so it was a really cool just way to get all the political, interested kids and even some people who weren't as, in touch with politics, but just a way for people to really work on their debate skills, communication and kind of current events. And it was just a really cool space on campus.
Yeah, it is a really cool space.
Very, very local. It's not like a nationwide thing. It was just something that some kids previously founded.
And also, your hometown of Coral Springs, Florida, has a teen political forum that you were on the board of. What is the teen political forum and how does it work?
Yeah, so like I mentioned, I mean, Coral Springs and Parkland is a pretty political area. So it's basically an opportunity for students, like a town hall style event where you get all your city commissioners, mayors, state representatives, and state senators in one room, and then it's an opportunity to where they can answer questions directly for young people. And so my senior year of high school, I had the opportunity to help lead the event and be a board member.
And then you worked as an intern for Representative Ted Deutsch. What was that like? Am I pronouncing his name correctly?
Yeah. So Deutsch, Congressman Deutsch, it was the congressional youth cabinet, and so it was basically it wasn't like an internship, but it was more of you applied for it, and it was an opportunity to work with the congressman on some policies and issues and that sort of stuff. It was really neat. I mean, COVID definitely made it a little bit weird because it was a Zoom call with 40 something kids on it from across Broward County most of the time. But it was I liked it. It was really cool to work with the congressman on policies. We remember one time we were talking about the Inflation Reduction Act, and so he basically just wanted to get our thoughts on it from a young person's perspective of what these policies would mean for Broward County. And it's a way to work with his office and policy staff on some policies and bill ideas that a congressman might be interested in drafting.
And then you've also volunteered for several political campaigns. Who did you volunteer for and what was that experience like?
Yeah, so I mean, like I mentioned, Parkland, I mean, it really made me focus on the importance of communities and community power. And so I really made it a focus to get involved in local campaigns that not only I supported, but could be most effective in my advocacy. And so my first campaign was with Joe Kim for state attorney. And so that was a very local progressive state attorney race, running on a progressive slate of, ending the war on drugs, ending mass incarceration, reducing recidivism, endorsed by Bernie Sanders and all that. Just really great opportunity to get involved. Just work my ass off during that COVID year, on phone banking and text banking, and I also led like a Students for Kimball group. It was a really cool opportunity to get students involved in the process of the campaign, which I really appreciated because as a student myself, a lot of campaigns, a lot of the times, don't focus on young people, and so I was really harnessing and activating a lot of volunteers from young people and his message. And then I'm also got involved in Nancy Matera for Coral Springs Commission. And then this past couple months, I helped elect my friend Maxwell Frost for Congress, which is just amazing to see his growth. And now he's just like Vogue, Teen Vogue magazine cover and all this stuff. But just really great campaigns that I've had the fortune of electing and helping support.
And Maxwell Frost happens to be the first Gen Z member of Congress. How do you feel about that?
Oh man, it's awesome. It's so weird because I first met him through March for Our Lives. So he was one of the organizers of the Orlando March. I was involved down in Parkland, so we crossed paths a lot with our work in March for Our Lives. When he was the national organizing director for March for Our Lives, I worked a little bit with him and helped him. It's funny. I first met him when he wasn't a congressman, and now he's just like this hot shot, member of the squad, progressive congressman.
Yeah.
And it's insane to see his growth. I mean, I've just watched from a distance, and then once I moved to Orlando, up close, just how he ran his campaign. It was just one of the best campaigns ever. I mean, I can tell you a story. I mean, so in February of, I want to say 2021, I had just gotten into UCF. I sent the papers, and then that weekend, the Frost campaign had an oyster roast event. It was a fundraiser, and it was by far the best political event I've ever been to. It was just a very local, in someone's backyard. And then Frost played in his band. His background's as a jazz drummer. So we're cooking up oysters, and Frost's mom made Cuban food. It was just the whole event was phenomenal. And then Frost got on the drums and started just playing, and it was just, oh my God, it was just the best event I've ever been to. It was just amazing. But just seeing that campaign and, just so inspired by his work and his policies and how he talks and how he conducts himself, it really is special. The fact that the first Gen Z member of Congress is someone I know and that I've worked with and that I can call a friend of mine is just unbelievable and so inspiring.
So, any other interesting stories from the campaign trail? Not necessarily Maxwell Frost's, but anyone else's?
Let me think. Oh, I remember for the 2020 election, it was kind of still during COVID, it was masks and stuff. But I spent about a week during early voting, the 2020 election that was with Biden and Trump. And so I remember being at the polls in the rain it was on Halloween. And I remember it was so funny. A voter dressed up as Joe Exotic to go vote, the whole the tiger costume and everything, and just talking to her for 20 minutes about just the Netflix show and everything. That was pretty cool. In terms of Frost, it was really just amazing moment that I had the opportunity to be involved with. I was actually the person who broke the news that we won to Frost at the primary watch party. And so I had all the Twitter notifications, New York Times elections, AP News elections, Dave Wasserman, all the tweets rolling in. I had Orlando Sentinel, all of it. And I was on my phone. I had a piece of pizza in my hand because I was running around like a chicken with my head off. I wasn't eating. So I finally had a chance to sit down and eat. And I'm on my phone and I see a pop up, Bernie Sanders endorsed Maxwell Frost wins in Florida 10. And I literally grab him, I physically grab him and I shove the phone in his face. And then we start jumping, and then Maria, his sister, started jumping with us, and the room just exploded. And it was just an unbelievable moment. And then if you see the video that I posted, Maxwell Frost, Orlando's ex-congressman, that is the moments immediately after that. Just the room, just everyone's crying and hugging each other, and just that, because it's insane that we won by 10 points, but a 25-year-old first-time candidate should not, we beat a state senator, a former congressman, two former congressmen, a congressman and a congresswoman. Here's $2 million. It was just, that race was just so unbelievable to be a fly on the wall for, to just see just the momentum of that campaign all happen in that that one moment and just the room explode.
Yeah. So, like you mentioned, after you graduated from Stoneman Douglas, you went to college at the University of Central Florida. Why did you choose that school?
Florida in-state tuition, basically, is the answer. I love Orlando. There's a lot to do here. It's a great college, great campus. Then also with bright futures and all that, the scholarships, it's the most economically viable option for me and my family. So, and also it's a 3 hour drive from home, so I like it here. I mean, I'm currently sitting in the common room, my dorm, like looking out the window. It is a cool. It's 91 degrees out, partly cloudy. So it's just, you gotta love Florida. It's just, I definitely didn't want to leave the state. So it's just, beautiful area, beautiful people. I just really like it here in Orlando.
I've been to Orlando 3 times, 2 times to go to Universal and 1 time to go to a Star Wars fan event.
Yeah, I haven't gone Universal or Disney since I've been here, since I moved to Orlando, which is funny enough because I was like, that's like all people know it for. But no, we have a lot. Orlando has a lot more to do than just Disney and Universal. I mean, it's definitely a big part of the economy here. But I mean, it is a very cool city. Definitely check out the Milk District if you get down here.
What about that bright purple motel from the Florida Project?
I haven't been.
Look, if you're in Orlando thinking about policy, you gotta think about that movie. I think some of the proceeds from that movie went to this place called the Community Help Center or Community Hope Center.
Yeah, see. I'm not a great movie guy. I don't really watch movies that much. I'm more like a TV show like West Wing, Breaking Bad, House of Cards, that kind of stuff.
I've seen West Wing.
West Wing is my favorite show. Can you tell? It's it was funny. I was working on the Kim Out campaign when I was binge watching West Wing, and so I'd like phone bank and all that like from like 9 to 5, and then I'd from like 6 to 2 o'clock in the morning I'd watch like 5 episodes of the West Wing, and so
well,
it was
explains
like
why you're talking a little too fast for me to follow you.
I can slow down a little bit. I can slow down, but yeah, I have not watched the Florida Project. I need to. It's on my list.
Yeah, great indie flick. But I have seen West Wing too.
Yeah, I love that show. It's by far my favorite.
Wow. So, were you anxious when you first started at University of Central Florida?
Yeah, I mean, college is always like a very crazy situation. You kind of get, thrown out of your home and into this new life of this new city. What's really cool about Orlando is that I have been working and I've been, organizing and working this, political space since I was a kid, basically. And so a lot of the connections I've made, high school Democrats, March for Our Lives, and also Frost and all that stuff. It was really a great opportunity to be on campus during the summer. And so I had a lot of friends from those past experiences in Orlando politics. And so it made the move a lot easier because I knew a lot of people who were in the area. It wasn't like I just had no one to live with or to be friends with. So yeah, I mean, it's always anxious, moving in different situations, scenarios, and different work ethic and different expectations, and you're really independent. I mean, it truly is a next stage of your life, a next chapter. But it was really great having that base of Orlando politics to depend on.
Yeah, and speaking of college, I also studied at a school that is best known outside its alumni circle as the site of a shooting, which is where I went to college at UNC Charlotte.
Yeah,
I was not there during the shooting. I was there after the shooting.
Yeah, I remember that very clearly. That shooting. Yeah.
Yeah. The biggest testament to how normal it's become is how casually we can talk about it.
Yeah, and that's kind of it brings back to grounding you in the work of working in these spaces of gun violence prevention is very difficult, and it really does ground you in how important this work is and how normalized or how normalized the unnormal has become in American society, and how we have to keep fighting for that world that we want to live in and need to live in.
Yeah. So you're on the Student Government Leadership Council at UCF.
I like it. I mean, it's a pretty good opportunity to get involved in campus. I made a lot of friends there in student government, which I'm really fortunate to have done.
And what do you like to do in your spare time besides watch The West Wing?
Yeah, no, The West Wing and Breaking Bad definitely is on that list. I recently got into a hobby of photography, which I've really enjoyed. Just walking around campus, taking pictures. Also, being in Orlando, the SpaceX launches and NASA is right there. So I've really got involved in the whole space launches and Falcon Heavies and Falcon 9s and all that stuff. I have this app on my phone, so it tells me like the 24 hours and until a launch, 10 hours, 10 minutes to a launch. And so I will just walk 5 minutes to the top of the parking garage and just kind of take my camera, take some photos of the launches, which is really fun to do. And yeah, politics is just a really hard work. You can burn out very easily, and so I've really made a priority to focus on other things in life and to not let politics consume me, and to find self-care and hobbies and just joy in my everyday life.
What have you been doing most recently as an advocate and community organizer?
Yeah, so in my capacity with Team Enough as a legislative coordinator, we've been working a lot on the Florida legislative session, and so this year we're seeing two bills specifically: HB 543, which is permitless carry, and then HB 1543, which would lower the age to buy a firearm in Florida from 21 to 18. And so I've been doing a lot of work in the state legislature against those two really bad gun bills, and also with the Team Enough Youth Lobbying Collective to really fight against those bills. And session's always tough. Republicans have a supermajority in both chambers, so we're not seeing any good bills pass. It's kind of just trying to not make it as bad. But like I mentioned before, and with open carry, we are seeing some wins, and so I'm proud of the work we're doing in terms of that.
And do you feel like with everything you've been a part of that you've made an impact?
I hope so. I think the impact that one can make is dictated by the people around them and the community around them. And I don't think it's really up to me to say that I made an impact. I think that a person's legacy or their actions are defined by what the people around them say about them. Being a leader is someone who exemplifies leadership. A leader doesn't say they're a leader. They just kind of are. And so I don't know. I try to. I think that I made an impact in my work. I really do hope so. But every day it's a fight for something new, for some kind of new issue or whatever the governor's office spouts out the next day. But just yeah, I really do hope that students in Florida are mobilized and that activated, and that the impact that I've made is lasting.
And what have you done in the past that you maybe wish you could have done differently when you look back on it?
I don't like to compare myself, past, present, future. I really do like to take it one step at a time. I remember when I was in 8th grade. This is kind of a funny story. I had this huge crush on this girl, and I sat it was like an algebra class, and I sat like 3 rows back from her. And my best friend at the time sat next to her, and the girl had a huge crush on my best friend. And I would basically watch them talk the entire class, and I always be like, "Oh, why couldn't I be like that one guy? Why couldn't she like me?" And so the entire year, I would compare myself to him, and I learned from a young age how negative it can be to compare yourself, either you to others or you in other situations. So the answer to your question is I don't like to compare myself. I like to really think that lead with my heart. And that means that if I feel like I did the most I can do and I made the most impact, and that if I had the right intentions, I think that that's all you can really do in life. I don't really want to play Monday morning quarterback with my past experiences. I really do think that everything it's a collection that got me to where I am today. My experiences, meeting people like David, working with people like Frost, campaigns like Kimmock, and experiences like student government. I've really shaped and molded who I am today, and I'm really fortunate for those experiences.
What are your plans for after college?
I really don't know. Like I mentioned, I'm trying to take it one step at a time, but I really do enjoy politics, which has its rewards and also its losses at times. Working in Florida politics is exhausting. We have a governor who doesn't listen to the voices of students or anyone that isn't a Republican, super high dollar donor. So it's really hard to work in Florida politics, but sadly, I love it. I love the people. I love the communities. I love the weather. I love the history. And I really want to keep fighting for a future that we can be proud of. And that one day that when we raise our kids, and that when we, watch the news, that Florida is a beacon of hope and something that can really be something that we're proud of on a policy level, on a personal level, but also just as people, and I think that in the current climate with DeSantis, it's not the case. And so my plans for future is, I don't know. I'm trying to keep all my doors open. I mean, right now I'm a political science pre-law major, so law school is definitely an option, a little bit less than others, but there's a lot of things that I'm interested in. I want to give myself the space and opportunity to pursue all avenues that I can.
It was really nice talking to you today. I enjoyed having you on the show. Thanks so much for
Thank you.
coming
Yeah, I
on.
appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it too. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
To me, Logan is a storyteller. This interview gave me a complete picture of his journey, from starting at Stoneman Douglas High School the year after the shooting, to his current interests in politics at UCF, and onward. My favorite story he told was about the Backyard Oyster Roast fundraiser for Maxwell Frost's campaign. We don't really think of political candidates as fun people who jump up and play the drums at a fundraising event, but I think we want to vote for people who seem like actual people rather than just personifications of a political agenda. I also liked hearing that he watches West Wing. I've watched that show too. The state of Florida has an outrageous reputation that precedes it, and current policies, especially around education, are certainly reminding us of that. As Logan continues on his journey, you can follow him on Instagram at Logan.Rubenstein and on Twitter at LoganRub_17. You'd like to recommend someone you know who is trying to make a difference to be on the show, or if you are someone trying to make a difference and would like to be on the show, email us at generationchange@leofinelli.com. Please follow us on Twitter and Instagram at GenChangeWithLF. That's at GenChangeWithLF. Follow and review wherever you get your podcasts, and just share this with your friends and others. Generation Change with Leo Finelli is hosted by Leo Finelli, executive produced by Julie Finelli, and edited by Nick and Leo Finelli. Our original music was composed and performed by Leo Finelli. Thank you so much for listening.